Hey everybody, Dave Bazanko here talking about my moving from fixed to growth mindset journaling process. I just wanted to do a quick video to share with you the thought process behind why I decided to put this book together. And it kind of goes back to a workshop that I was doing for the Institute for Performance and Learning in Toronto back in October. I had delivered a presentation to about 250 learning executives. And following that presentation, I had the opportunity to sit down with a few of the executives afterwards. And one of them came to me and said, you know, Dave, you have this very compartmentalized way of thinking. And she said to me, you know, I've got 3 young kids. I just don't see where I'm going to find the time. She said, maybe it's a guy thing that you guys can sort of take projects and put them into these neat, tidy boxes and check them off. But she said, you know, for me, it's just an ongoing mishmash of events taking place throughout the day, and it's really hard to get structured and organized. And that got me thinking about how I go about approaching my days and how I changed from that sort of things are just sort of happen to me throughout the day, coming at me willy-nilly, and really never having a game plan in place more than just saying, I've got to show up for work, I've got to do these things, and hopefully at the end of the day they all get done. Which is how a lot of people sort of handle time management. They come in, they know they've got a bunch of things they have to handle throughout the day, and they just get what they can get done and sort of deal with things. And when I learned how to become a triathlete those 12 years ago, and I first got a copy of this book, Joe Phyllis Triathlon Training Bible, what that did for me was it helped me understand how to journal, how to prioritize, how to plan, how to periodize train. Now, what that means to you is it's an opportunity to learn from a triathlete how to structure your days, your weeks, your months, your years, so that you eventually hit the outcome that you're looking to hit. The interesting thing about triathlon is it takes years to do this event. It takes years to do an Ironman. And I didn't realize that. I didn't understand the planning that went into it. And the really interesting part about that is that when you understand that thought process, that planning process, that daily winning mentality and building positive momentum, you can quickly turn that around into anybody's life and anybody from the learning industry specifically. If you're an employee and you want to learn how to develop a lifelong learning mentality, a growth mindset, you know, maybe you're the type of person who comes to work every day, does their job really well, but never really is moving towards some sort of bigger agenda. I think this is what the journal was really meant to do. So in having that conversation back in October, it spurred me to think quite a bit about how a lot of executives come up to me afterwards and go, well, it's really nice that you can go ahead and do those things, those triathlons, and you've got all kinds of time to do it. And it really struck me because I didn't have all kinds of time to do it. I'm just as busy as everybody else. I mean, I live 2 hours outside of Toronto, so when I have to go in and see clients, that means I'm commuting 4 hours a day on top of my work day. So where do I find the time to fit in triathlon? And some of my executive wellness clients would say to me, well, I've got to get on the GO train. I've got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And it really just struck me that even the most successful people, or the people who have places or positions of authority, aren't necessarily managing their time very well. So when I first got started with journaling, and to be clear, there are a lot of really good time management programs out there that are really good for checking off boxes and getting positive momentum moving forward. What I've simply done is I've adapted that process to help people learn how to move from a fixed to a growth mindset. I think the difference is when you're looking at people who are creating planning, you're looking at something that's very, very specific to your day. And, you know, everybody has to do that planning for their journaling, but I can't give you that recipe of what it is you need to do today. What I can simply share with you is how to gain the perspective to see what's actually going on in your day so that you can sit back and reflect and go, did I take a step forward today? What could I have done better? Did I win today? Did I move one step closer to my final goal, my final outcome, that thing, that vision that I'm trying to achieve? So I think that's a main differential between somebody telling you they've got a plan and this is how you should structure your day, bing, 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 or somebody that says, We're going to journal the process. We're going to build positive momentum. We're going to show you how your brain works throughout the day, and then you can decide how to best use your time throughout the day based on your busy schedule, how you can incorporate those anchor activities, those must-do activities that you need to do in order to achieve your goal. For me, it all became prioritization. I mean, anybody can work themselves to death. I mean, that's obvious. It happens all the time. It gets people into trouble. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to help you understand how if you just take a journaling growth mindset approach to your days and allow yourself that reflection to be able to see what that recipe looks like that you're following every day, that's going to take you one step closer to correcting your recipe to actually achieving the goals that you want to have. So let's go back a few years ago. So let's say 5 years ago. I'm not sure what year this book is from, but this is how I used to journal, okay? This is how I laid out my days. As you can see, there's notes scribbled all over this 3-ring binder. And this is how I typically would basically journal every day. I would make notes everywhere, right on even the back cover. And when this book was done, I had another one waiting, and it would just continue on, and I would store these books in my file cabinet. And that's how I tracked what I was doing. But it's not really a good system for going back and saying, hey, where was I back in January? I mean, it takes a lot of time to go back in here and try to find your notes and how it was constructed. And this is really a very basic way of journaling, but it's not very structured to help you achieve your goals. So what I learned from Joe Friel is I learned how to basically take my end goal, that objective that I want to achieve 365 days from now, back it up and create a recipe that's going to help me win every single day for the next 365 days so that when I get to this 365 days, now I've achieved the goal that I've set out to achieve. So what we try to do in this growth mindset journal, and I'm really excited to do this because, and to share this, because what I've been able to do here is I've been able to take the thought structure from a number of industry leaders on growth mindsets, on journaling, on happiness, all those things that I think are important in our lives, even success. Even if you're a salesperson like I'm in sales and marketing, and I've got to make the most use of my time. I've got to manage my time accordingly. And if I put myself in a position where I say, okay, I'm going to start work at 7 o'clock every morning, I'm going to finish work every night at 10 o'clock at night, I can tell you from personal experience that damages the relationships in your life. That does not lead to success. If you do need to make calls in those sort of outlying time frames, if you do need to set up appointments in those outlying time frames, then you need to take time back throughout the day to invest in yourself. I can't think of anybody that I know that is extremely successful. And I know people who are world champion Ironman triathletes. I know people who are extremely successful physicians and speakers. I know celebrities. I know professional athletes. None of them are ever at their peak performance or at the top of their game 100% of the time. They all have hills and valleys. They all ramp up for performance and then they recover. They have this sort of periodized look towards their day, their week, their month, so that they're allowing themselves to regenerate. That's one of the biggest things that I wasn't doing. I wasn't paying attention to my recovery. I was working, burning the candle at both ends. I was not prioritizing sleep or nutrition or exercise into my day. It just simply wasn't a priority. Thankfully, I had my wake-up call. That gave me the opportunity to sit back and reflect and say, what is important to me? I mean, clearly, if my heart stops beating, I'm dead. If my brain turns to mush, well, then I'm no use to anybody. And that's not a happy ending either. I've witnessed that through my father. I don't plan on having that be my reality. So rather than looking at the world of experts out there and saying, geez, who's got the magic bullet for me? What I try to look at is what each expert has to say. I try to look at it through my own perspective as to how can I take what they've given me and learn from that so that I can create some positive momentum and make it relative to me, make it relate to my goals in life, my vision that I want to create. So if you're familiar at all with my story and my journey, my vision is that one day every parent will be able to sit down with their kids and have informed, intelligent conversations about diet, exercise, mental health, and growth mindsets. I can tell you for a fact that my 2 adult children now, who are 20 and 24, tell me that their families don't talk like the way we talk at home. I like to have engaging conversations with my kids about all sorts of different subjects. And there's really nothing that's off the table. And I get into detail about talking about diet and exercise and talking about managing your time accordingly and setting goals and having visions. Kids don't like having those conversations because they're really intense for them. They haven't lived long enough to really understand or know what they want in life. So sometimes just being able to have a mentor in their life who they can kind of look towards and say, you know, I don't know what I want, but I kind of like what I see over there. That's a great place to start. It's a great place to talk to each other and say, hey, you know, I might not be the best mentor for you based on what you want to do, but who in your industry is the mentor that you want to follow? And then maybe you can help. You know, one day parents will all be able to help their kids look at that mentor and say, okay, here's some perspective that you might want to consider. So that we don't just blindly follow all of the so-called experts online. I mean, we live in the information technology era now, right? And there's a lot of so-called experts out there. So what I would recommend is just using good old common sense. You know, we all know that sometimes common sense isn't all that common, and we don't do. I mean, we all know we should exercise and eat right, but it's not common practice. Most people don't do it. So we need to find a way to develop that positive momentum, those growth mindsets that are going to help, well, for me, obviously realize my vision of creating a healthier, happier Canada and worldwide environment where parents can have these conversations with their kids and we have healthier, happier families. That's important to me. If that's important to you, then maybe you're a member of my tribe and welcome. But you know, this is all about building positive momentum. So in the journaling process that we've created here, I really tried to do this so that it wasn't going to take an awful lot of effort on your part to do this every day. Just consistency. If I've learned anything in the last 12 years about diet and exercise and growth mindsets, it's about being consistent every day. The days add up. So if you're either adding those days up in your favor, that's awesome. If you're oblivious to what you're doing and they're heading up in the wrong direction, that's not good. So part of this process is helping you gain the perspective so that you actually can see the steps that you're taking every day so that you can ask yourself, is this taking me further away from my goals or is it bringing me closer to my goals? And if you can break it down into daily wins, that's what's going to make the difference. It made all the difference for me, so that's why I set this up this way and that's how I'm going to share it with you. So when you look at the way the book is structured, at the beginning of the book, basically what I've got here at the beginning of the journal is just some outlines of why we do the things we do in the journal. Just 3 or 4 pages of text. So a little bit of reading material, not very much, but it gives you why my thought process is the way that it is and why I set the journal up the way I wanted to set it up. And then I give you an example of sort of what my day would look like, because a lot of people ask me, what would your day look like? So here it is. And again, remember, when you set up your journal, these days are the ideal days. They're not typically going to be every day. If you're lucky enough to work in an environment where your schedules are pretty set and there's not a lot of inconsistencies to it, that will be awesome. If you're actually working in an environment where things change all the time, then you've got to sort of build in these anchor routines that you do every day to ensure that as the you-know-what hits the fan, you're able to maintain that positive momentum, that growth moving forward. So if you make some of these priorities your anchor activities throughout the day, you're going to find that over time, that positive momentum will build up. So for example, if I can just flip over one page here and just kind of share this with you, you know, my daily mantra, I use that all the time. I write it down every day. It's in my head. I say it when I'm running all the time, especially when things get tough. I say these things to myself when business gets tough. Today I win. I'll finish what I started. I'll reach my goal. If I'm working on a report, I'm dealing with a tough customer, I've got to get a presentation together, I'm going for a run, whatever it is I'm doing, that mantra really, really serves me well. And I will tell you that when you've experienced real hardship and tough times, you'll come back to that mantra and think to yourself, I've been here before. I've done these hard things before. This isn't so hard. Right? That's one of the greatest lessons the Ironman taught me is I've been to the point where my body's always almost shut down and I've put myself very close to the point where I could have died in a race. And it was really interesting to actually get there and feel that and experience that. And I remember that. And every time things seem hard, I go, that's not hard. I know what hard is. This isn't hard. And I just get to doing the work. So having the presence of mind and the clarity and the experience that you might get over time and being able to record those things helps train your brain to remember that things aren't always as difficult as they may seem. So your daily mantra is important. I love the idea of being grateful, training your brain to be grateful. So many people are just so darn negative all the time. They get caught up in this world of negativity. They hate their job. They hate the people they work with. And it's, again, that Tetris effect where you just start seeing things and you start missing the opportunities around you. It's all based in science. I can't believe how obvious it is when you start looking at the principles of positive thinking. And being grateful is just a matter of sitting back and going, yeah, you know what, I might have had a hard day, but there's got to be 3 things in my life I'm grateful for. And if not, I got to make some changes because I shouldn't be miserable and unhappy every single day of my life. So gratitude is about building positive momentum in your days. Journaling one positive experience, I think we all have one moment in the day that we can look back on and go, that was a really kind of nice thing that happened, or a really cool thing that happened. And again, when you do that journaling of that positive experience, you get to replay that memory in your brain. And by being able to replay that memory, that's again going to allow you to relive, experience those emotions, and build more positive momentum. You know, on the right-hand side, you're going to see the word streak and a number. I can tell you the most gratifying thing in the world is to continue a winning streak. And even if you miss something, even if the day goes awry and you got to start from zero again, it's jumping back in and being competitive with yourself, not with anybody else. Winning streaks are one of the most powerful, competitive, self-motivating tools that empower you to be your best possible self. So having the winning streaks and recording those days on the side is super empowering. Now, you know, as you go through the rest of these things, you know, eliminating one bad habit. My biggest bad habit is that I eat after dinner. It is a huge challenge for me not to do that, and I really have to find strategies for setting myself up for success. And typically that means not having the bad foods in the house, the chips, the candy, whatever you might have. I have no willpower. Even after all these years, I have no willpower for a bag of chips sitting in front of me. I will polish the bag off, even though I know better. So there are certain things I don't have in the house anymore. I don't have juice in the house. I don't have pop in the house or soda in the house. I try to keep candy out of the house. I try to keep chips out of the house, but invariably they end up being in the house because we're having a party. We need to have some chips in the house, and they don't all get eaten, and guess who gets to eat them all? So having, you know, we used to have ice cream in the house. You used to eat ice cream every day. And here's something you need to learn is that if it is in your home, it is a staple. If it is something that you have to go out and get, it is a treat. Remember that. Live by those words when you go to the grocery store. Because the more you understand about your diet, for example, the more you understand what is a treat and a staple in your life is truly revealing and will help you become the person that you want to become. Now, things like random acts of kindness, you know, being able to just improve your social network, being able to connect with the people who you actually know on a daily basis, make them feel good. Who doesn't want a friend who's going to make you feel good? I want my friends to make me feel good, but I never receive emails from my friends, just random emails saying, hey, what's going on? Hope you're having an awesome day. Heard you were doing a presentation. Good luck, man. Nobody ever does that for me. So how awesome would it be if I could do that for somebody else? And if you start doing that, you start building and planting seeds of positive momentum, not only for yourself, but with your friends. And over time, your friends come to trust and believe you more. And you just form stronger bonds with people who you care about. That's really the most important thing towards building positive momentum is having a team, a tribe of people who are all moving forward together. One of the greatest thrills for me is that not only have I influenced my own family with the diet and exercise that I do now in my life, but all of my friends, especially my male friends, have all started either running or cycling with me, which is awesome. And I'm discovering that even more and more and more of my friends and their friends are being told they need to exercise more. Their doctors are giving them their aha moments, and they're asking their buddies who they know who run, and it all kind of gravitates back to me. So I'm happy to meet new friends and go out running with new people. And even if it's just for a short run and then I go do the rest of my run, it's all about building positive momentum with like-minded people. That positivity, I'm telling you, it's like a snowball going down a hill. This is all designed to create positive movement in your life. Your to-do list. For me, that's about getting your anchor activities done on your block time management system. Block time management, I've started off at 4 a.m. because some people do get up early and I don't know what time that is for some people. So, just make sure that you're paying attention to those key activities that you're doing throughout the day. Make sure you get in those anchor activities. And if what hits the fan and your day goes awry, make sure you've numbered off. What is the single most important thing of my anchor activities that I will do before I do not go to bed tonight? And for me, it's exercise. And there have been many days when I've been traveling when I find myself up very early in the morning to travel, and I find myself on a spin bike in a random hotel at some point at 10, 11 o'clock at night for an hour, because I will not go to bed unless I've exercised. That is the commitment I've made to my heart and my brain. And I've talked a lot about in some other videos how aerobic exercise helps build new brain cells, and I'm all about healthy heart and brain and new brain cells. So that's where my anchor activities start, and I at least get that one in. The other two anchor activities, which are personal development, I usually sneak those ones in, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes throughout the day. So for me, the big one is the exercise, because that's the one that takes the most amount of time. If I do that, I've won the day. I keep the positive momentum moving forward. Excuse me. Just wake-up calls, making sure that you're getting good sleep hygiene. I've talked a lot about in the journal how to create good sleep hygiene, and my friend Dr. Greg Wells in his book, The Ripple Effect. If you want to pick that up, there's a link from my website where you can pick that up from Amazon as well, and that will enlighten you quite a bit. I'm not a doctor, but I love reading books from doctors who know how to communicate well. And Greg is one of those guys. So is Dr. Yanni Friedhoff. So those are two books you can read. There are links from my website on both diet and exercise and sleep. Having a growth mindset. What I learned today, if you're not learning at least one new thing every day, and it doesn't have to be monumental, but if you're not learning at least one new thing every day, you're headed in the wrong direction. This is all about developing a growth mindset and becoming a lifelong learner, and never ever being complacent or satisfied with where you are. So that begs the question, how can I be 1% better? All of these questions, all of these statements, this literally should take you about 5 minutes a day to enter in these notes in the journal. It really isn't complicated, but it is scientific. It is made and designed to keep dopamine channeled the right way, to keep positive momentum rolling the right way, and to give you something to be accountable to. Now, at the end of each month, you're going to see that there is a review sheet. And in the review sheet, basically what we do is we ask you to fill in a certain number of questions. Sorry, I'm just scrambling here for it. At the end of each month, and right here. So reflection and connecting the dots. So you can see I've got about 15 questions. So at the end of the month, what's really important is to be able to look back, reflect, and see if I indeed am headed in the right direction, or if there's any tweaks or changes that I need to make to my recipe. And it really asks you just to give your thoughts on paper. I will tell you some of the most powerful moments for me are at the end of a year when I've done a year of journaling, a year of training, and I look back, and it's really important in the moment to make notes, just quick bullet point notes. How was I feeling? How did this make me feel? Did I feel better than I did last month? Did I feel like I was making progress? It's in those moments where you're being raw and honest with yourself that when you sit back at the end of the year and you come back and go, okay, what did this year look like? How did I feel? What was important? You can start reflecting on those months without having to really skim through the whole journal. You can go to the month days and you can start looking, going, how did I feel? I remember this was going on. How did that make me feel? How did the journal help me keep a positive mindset, even though everything else might have been going sideways in my life? You can also throw in sticky notes in here. I'm not trying to overcomplicate this, but if you throw in some post-it notes on days that are really important, little things that you want to remember down the road. And then what I would do with this journal is I would just file it away and I would hold on to it and start a new journal the next year. Whether or not you're using the Hilroy notebooks, or you're using the journal that I've created here, you know, you can do whatever you want. My mission, again, isn't to sell you these journals. My mission is to teach you what I believe has helped me. And hopefully I've been able to do that in a really structured way through this journal. If you do want to pick up the journal and your employer hasn't given you a copy of this, you can do so on my website, heartfit365.com, where you will realize that my true mission in life is really actually just to inspire other people to live healthy and happy lives. And so much of where our anxiety comes from is in our jobs and how we make money. And we need to learn how to turn that stress from a threat into a challenge. I think for me, that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, is that I really experienced a lot of stress, and that's what caused my heart issues back when I was 40, because I had my recipe for success totally backwards. I thought it was about working hard, putting your head down, doing the work, and just knocking it through, and everything was going to be awesome. I totally killed my body doing that, and killed my health, destroyed my health, and I sort of destroyed some relationships, which I'm really sorry for. Along the way, I mean, I've ruined some very good friendships because of that mentality. And looking back now, I wished I had done things differently. I wished that I had had the perspective that something like this would have given me, so that I would have been able to sit back and went, oh, you know what? You're being a bit of a dick right now, because you're really, really, really being, for the last 2 months, intensely focused on your needs, and not having any regards for anybody else. Because, man, it's all about you moving forward, and you getting that house paid off, you getting that next new car, and blah, 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 blah. You know what? That is not the recipe to success and health and happiness. That is a recipe for stress, anxiety, and panic attacks, and all kinds of bad news. So, hopefully, if you've been able to relate to anything that I've shared with you here today, the reasoning for why I've created this journal is to help people. It's taken what I know works, and it's if you just, again, you can throw this into your, I mean, it's a thicker book, I know that, I realize that. You can keep this at home and just sort of record at the end of the day. You can take it to work and leave it at work. But there will be some personal stuff in here that you might not want to have lying around. So, you know, the best thing that I could recommend that you do is throw that into your satchel and take that with you at all times, or you can keep it in a private place at home and just reflect every day and fill in the dots. I like having this. I refer to this first thing in the morning and refer to it in the evening, and that way I make my journal entries beginning of the day, end of the day, and usually it's at home. I don't normally carry this with me in my satchel, but if you wanted to, you could. And there's a reason why this isn't digital. Because, first of all, I've got so many digital devices that have information stored on them from years ago, and I can't for the life of me remember how to access it. If you're like me, you're going through new cell phones, new laptops on an ongoing basis. And believe me, when you look at the block time management, this isn't meant to replace your Microsoft Outlook. Microsoft Outlook is where I keep my time management. This is just how I'm structuring my time throughout the day. It's helping me see the process of how I spend my time, how I utilize my time, so that I get the most value from my day. The worst thing you can do is to go through a day, a week, a month, a year, a decade and go, man, I really wanted to be over here, but I was so busy doing all this stuff that I never really got to here, right? We didn't really have the perspective that we needed to see what was going on in our lives every day. So this book about growing from a fixed to a growth mindset, that fixed mindset does not have perspective. A growth mindset has perspective, so that you can look at your day and you can go, am I following a recipe that's working, or am I not? And when you find that recipe that works for you, and I've been tweaking mine all along, it will never be 100% perfect. But so long as you feel like you're winning every day and you feel like you're moving in the right direction, this journal just might be the thing that you were looking for. If you do have more specific questions that you'd like to ask about how I journal for, say, for example, weight management, there's a whole process that I used and still use with MyFitnessPal, which is an online journaling system that you can calculate your calories in and calories out every day if that's what's keeping you awake at night. If, hey, how do I stay relevant in my job? Then you've got to learn how to squeeze in the training that you need to build your career. We do know that communication and communicating ideas successfully is going to be the currency of the future. So even just looking at some of the communication books that I endorse, things like Carmen Gallo's 5 Stars and The Storyteller's Secret, and Talk Like Ted by Chris Anderson, and TED Talks by Carmen Gallo. These are books that are important and they're worth reading, because the clearer you can be about communicating your ideas to other people, the more value you will have to an organization. Too many people have their noses stuck inside those computers. And there's a great analogy that Carmen Gallo gives of a professional poker player, who turned from professional poker to becoming a coder, but he realized that there's hundreds of thousands of coders out there. How can he differentiate himself? Well, he learned how to read people through playing cards. And he was able to take his skill of being a card player and reading people, and his skill of communicating with people, to becoming one of the most highly paid coders. He wasn't any better, if not, he was a lot less experienced than a lot of the coders who were making really good money. But what he was able to do was he was able to become client-facing, because he became a great communicator. He learned how to be a good storyteller. He learned how to communicate well with others. That is gold. So again, hopefully being able to look at this journal as a way to learn how to communicate with your friends better is a step in the right direction. Learning how to communicate with yourself better. What's important to me? What do I really want out of life? Being able to go to the back of the book, and again, I talk about the triathlon sort of mentality. What I put at the back of the book, I put at the back of the book my race day, or my vision, my goals. What is the thing that I want to achieve 365 days from now? There it is. Now I'm going to work towards getting there. And when I get there, I'm going to look back, just like when I do a race, and I'm going to leave some notes. Did I get there? How did I feel? What worked? What didn't work? What am I going to do differently next year? These are all the tips and the tricks that you need to have. I think we've encapsulated them all here in the journal. And hey, you know what? This isn't perfect. It's always going to be a work in progress. But if you're interested, I'd be more than happy to send you a 30-day copy of this journal in the PDF format, just for you to be part of my focus group and test it out. So if that sounds like a challenge to you that you'd like to accept, just shoot me a comment, let me know that you're interested, and I'll share that with you. And you can give me some positive feedback as to how it might have inspired you or helped you to develop a growth mindset over the next 31 days. Thank you, everyone. If you're watching the courses, I hope you enjoy them. If you buy the journal, I hope you learn how to use that. And I hope that you can find all the success and happiness that you're looking for on a daily basis by learning to go from a fixed to a growth mindset. Happy journaling.